All right, let's dive into something super important for project performance today. We're talking about clarity, getting really crystal clear on what a project includes and what it doesn't.
Absolutely crucial. And, it's a foundational principle, something
Yeah.
that's really well explored in Project Management for Project Managers by Orlando Casabon.
Yeah, we're going to be pulling a lot from that today as we kind of look at this idea of scope and how it's really the bedrock. It's one of the six key aspects, of course, of project success: cost, timescales, quality, risk, benefits, and then scope itself. But we're going to make the argument that it's really foundational to all of those other things.
It really is.
Yeah.
So often when a project goes off the rails, it's because that initial understanding of what the project was supposed to deliver was fuzzy.
Right, right. So let's start there. When we say scope, what are we actually talking about? I mean, what's the practical definition here?
Well, think of scope as defining every single thing that the project is going to produce.
Hmm.
The deliverables, right? So it's like drawing a line in the sand, everything inside that line. That's the project, outside, not the project.
I get it. It's not just the activities, it's the actual things you're creating. Okay, so why is having that clear scope so fundamental to managing all those other aspects like budget and timeline and all that?
Because until you know exactly what you're building, you can't really estimate how much it's going to cost or how long it's going to take, right?
Hmm.
Imagine trying to give someone a quote to build a house, but you don't have any blueprints.
Okay, yeah, that's a pretty good analogy. A vague scope just throws all your planning out the window.
Mhm.
And what about quality? I mean, how can you ensure quality if the scope's a moving target?
You can't. Quality is all about meeting requirements.
Hmm.
But how can you define those requirements if you don't know exactly what you're delivering in the first place?
Right, right. And I would think all that uncertainty around scope would also make it really tough to anticipate risks.
Absolutely. Risk management is all about identifying potential problems. But how can you do that if you don't have a clear picture of what you're trying to create?
So it's like navigating uncharted territory with no map. Okay, so we've talked about costs, timelines, quality, risk. How does all this tie into the benefits of the project, the actual outcomes you're trying to achieve?
Well, the benefits are the positive changes that come from what the project delivers, right?
Hmm.
But if you're not clear on those deliverables, it becomes incredibly hard to measure whether you've actually achieved those outcomes.
Yeah, you don't know if you've hit the target if you don't know what the target is. So I guess it's important to know what scope isn't as well as what it is. What are some things that might sound like they're part of the project scope but actually aren't?
Right. Things like ease of use or reliability, those are really important, but those are qualities of the deliverables, not deliverables themselves.
I see. Like the deliverable might be a software application and ease of use is a quality of that application, but not the application itself.
Exactly. And, something like high performance, that's way too general. Scope needs to be specific, measurable.
Which brings us, I think, to the whole issue of scope creep. When the project just keeps expanding beyond those initial boundaries.
And that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Budget overruns, delays, compromised quality. It's almost inevitable when scope creep takes hold.
So basically, getting the scope right up front is essential. I mean, really essential.
You couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
That time you invest in defining the scope and getting that clarity, it pays off big time throughout the entire project.
And this idea of clearly defining what's in and what's out, I mean, that's a valuable principle for so many things in life, not just formal projects.
Oh, absolutely. It can save a lot of headaches.
If you want to go deeper on all of this stuff, Project Management for Project Managers by Orlando Casabon is a fantastic resource. It really breaks it all down.
Really insightful stuff. Highly recommend it.
Thanks so much for taking us through all of that. Really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure.
Until next time.